All right, so skill 27 is all about averages. The average is the arithmetic mean, all right? And these show up on the ACT. There are usually two, sometimes even three questions on averages. So you definitely want to know it. There'll be like an easier question and a harder question in most cases. The basic idea of an average is simple, okay? And I'm going to write down this super important formula. The average, we'll just say AVG, is equal to the sum of a bunch of numbers divided by the number of things, okay? Or the number of numbers or whatever it is. This is the most important formula, and whenever you see an average problem on the ACT, you should write down this formula because you're going to need all three parts, okay? So to find the average, you add up the numbers and divide. So if the average of 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, and 7 divided by 5 is 4. You're not going to see a problem like this on the ACT. It's too easy. So you're going to see something maybe a little bit more interesting. Let's have a look at this one. So based on the histogram above, what is closest to the average number of seeds per apple? So in this case, we have to read the chart. Okay, so that's how they've made it a little bit more interesting, right? So there are 2 apples with 3 seeds. Okay, so they're asking for the number of seeds on average. So we have 2 with 3. Then there are 4 with 5. Okay, 5, 5, 5, 5. And then there's 1 with 6, 2 with 7, and 3 with 9. So those are all of the things that we have to average, right? So we're going to do 3 plus 3 plus 5 plus 5, etc. And then we're going to divide by how many things there are, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And you will get an average. And we don't need to do that now. You can put it in your calculator. I think we calculated here. Yep. So the data is that, giving a sum of 73.5, which is an average of slightly more than 6. All right. So that's an easier type, but a little bit more interesting because you have to grab the data in the right way from the chart. The most common type of question that students struggle with averages is this one. Suppose that Mike's average on his first 4 tests is 88. What must he score on the 5th test to raise his average score to a 90? All right. So this feels a little hard because we don't know what the actual test scores are. We just know that the average was 88. Well, what are you supposed to do with that? But we use our formula, okay? We know that the average is 88, so let's write that. And we know that there were 4 tests. This is what we know, right? So we're going to divide by 4, and this is going to be the sum, right? Because the average equals the sum divided by the number of things, or in this case, the number of tests. That means that the sum is just 88 times 4, okay? Which we have here is 352. So now we know that the sum of the first 4 tests was 352. Now they're asking, well, what about 5 tests having an average of 90? Well, if we do the same thing, we know that the average is 90, and we know that it's going to be 5 tests, right? So now we know that the sum of all 5 tests would have to be 90 times 5, which is 450, right? And that means that the 5th test is just the difference between the all the tests, the sum of all the tests, and the sum of the first 4, 450 minus 352. So he had to get a 98 on the 5th test. So that's an example of a harder type of average problem. And just notice, it's all about the sum of the numbers. For any type of hard average problem, what you have to do is get the sums. They never tell you the sums. They pretty much always tell you the average, and they tell you how many things there are. And then it's up to you to find the sums and then work with the sums to get to whatever last thing that they're asking you to do. That's it. Like, you're not really going to see anything much outside of that in terms of averages. So if you get that, how to do that process, you'll be fine with harder average problems.